Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bible Study Wednesday night. It is so good to see all of you. Marcy, put the volume down. It's doing some feedback back here. Yes, yes. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bible Study. So glad to have you guys. And as usual, the first thing I'm going to ask you guys to do is share, share, share. Put it. Did you put it down? The main one? It's still doing. It's still doing something. We are ready. Tonight's topic is going to be adolescents or teens and adolescents, mental health, and COVID. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that. And as we're talking about that, there's a lot of parallels that happen with adolescents and with adults. So you might be seeing a lot of these things happening, maybe even with some adults that are near you. And just it's been this whole year and last year has had such a toll on people, individuals, on families, and so we just want to talk a little bit about it. If you are on, I want to encourage you to like this video and share it with someone, anyone who you think, even if you don't know if they would benefit from it, share it with them anyway, because they most likely they need to hear it. All right, so share this video with someone. Hello. There's they don't have sound, Marcy. Yes. Hello, hello, hello. Let me check the YouTube. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, yes. Hello? It's very, okay. Yeah, now I believe it's working now. Is it working, guys? Is the sound working for you again? Please let us know. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know if the sound. Okay, yes. I think it's working because it's working on my phone now. Right? Hello, hello? Okay. All right. So, again, thank you for joining us this evening for Bible study. And our topic, I guess you guys didn't hear anything that I was saying at the beginning. Our topic today is teen mental health and COVID. And we're just talking about, and I was saying that there's a lot of parallels between teen mental health and COVID and adult mental health and COVID, right? So you're going to find that even as I'm going through this, maybe you have a friend who's been going through something similar, and maybe you're worried about them. Maybe you need to approach them, ask questions. That's the thing about mental health. We don't ask enough questions of each other. Sure, we all do the how are you, how's it going, how are you doing, but that's about it. And it's important for us to ask more questions of each other, not just the how are you and then the person answers fine. You know, that's not enough. We're so used to those automatic responses that it's automatic, right? So someone asks you how are you, you automatically respond fine without even a second thought. You don't even really think about how you're doing. You just answer fine. You know, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. And, you know, so many more things could be going on. So I encourage you to be the person to ask more questions. When you're talking to your friends, when you're talking to your peers, when you're talking to your children, and you're asking them questions like, how are they? Ask more questions. You really try to figure out what's going on. I think we have left each other alone too long. You know, everybody wants to be in their own corner and doing their own thing. And we have accepted this for too long that we've lost a lot of people this way. So be the one to be, you know, to ask a little more. You never know what you'll find out. And if you need help, to get them help. You're not going to be the one to give them the help, but you can be the one to get them to whoever needs to be able to help them. So we're going to just pray, and then we're going to get right into it. And I just really, please share this video with someone. Let them know that we are on, we're ready. You never know. With mental health, it's not like physical health, right? You can't look at somebody and know how they're feeling. You can't look at somebody and know how their mental health is. So it's not like we know everyone who might be suffering with mental illness. So that means you send it to everybody. Ask everybody and see whoever it is that needs the help. So let's open up in prayer. Heavenly Father, we give you glory, we give you honor, and we give you praise. Boy, hold on, y'all. Let's see if that works. Oh, Lord. You guys don't even know how much work that was for me to get up on this chair. Hallelujah. Heavenly Father, we give you glory, we give you honor, we give you praise, Lord, for you are good and your mercy endures forever. There is none that is quite like you, oh God. Tonight, Lord, as we talk about mental health, Lord God, and the state of our mental health and the state of the mental health of those that are around us, I pray that you would give us insight, that you would give us self-awareness, that you would help us, oh God, to really look at ourselves or to really look at the people around us, oh Lord, and to be able, Father God, to apply some of these things that we are learning so that we can help somebody. We have no idea whose life we could be changing, whose life we could be saving by just asking a few questions, just recognizing a few signs and symptoms. And so, Lord, I ask today that you would put in us a spirit of boldness. I know it takes a lot of courage for us to ask the right questions. It takes a lot of courage for us to go up to those that are around us, even those that are the closest to us, and to really find out what it is that's going on with them. But I'm asking you tonight for courage for each and every person that is listening, oh Lord, that we would be able to be there for our brothers, be there for our sisters, be there for our children, or even our parents, oh Lord, that we can be there for them in a way, oh God, that is going to help them to be stronger. We give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen and amen. All right, so let's get into it. Teen mental health and COVID. And like I said, you might hear some things that are similar to adults and how an adult might be experiencing their life or how they might be going through their everyday. So it has been over a year since we have been dealing with this pandemic. And it has really hit us in so many different ways I don't think that we really knew was even possible, ways that we didn't see coming at all. And the way that everything happened so quickly that it caused so many of us to be really just knocked off of our feet, right? So people were losing jobs just left and right. Some people who lost jobs last year from COVID still are not back to their jobs, still have no jobs even today. So people are losing jobs, the schools closing down, colleges closing down, stores closing down. All of these things that happened, it was off-putting, it was confusing, it was a lot of different things, and not everyone was able to handle it in the way, I guess, in the right way or in a good way, because we're not taught, right? We didn't go to school and have this class on what to do if a pandemic hit. We have fire drills. I think we even have the tornado warning drill. We have, now schools are having active shooter drills, but there's no drill for a worldwide pandemic. And with that, schools were shut for over 8, 9 months. Even now, some students still have not gone back to the brick and mortar school. So when I say the brick and mortar, I'm talking about them actually walking into a building. A lot of them are still doing virtual schools. And we have noticed that this has caused so many issues in the mental health of adults, not even to mention teens and those that are younger children. I have so many more clients now, and my agency is bombarded with clients, and we do a range from children to adults, but we have so many more children, teens, adolescents, even college age, just because of the uncertainty of what tomorrow is gonna bring. So adolescents rely heavily. They rely heavily on connections with their peers. And this is why I say a lot of what we talk about today with adolescents is going to transcend to adults, depending on what type of adult you are, what type of work you are doing, who your connections are, who your support is. So but today we're just focusing on teens, and preteens. So adolescents rely heavily on connections with their peers. This is the age where they're not really listening to their parents. They're not really taking heed of what you're telling them because, number one, they think they know everything, and number two, they think their friends know everything. So if their friend tells them something, they're more amped to go with whatever it is their friend is saying than whatever it is you're saying. Oh, who cares that you went, you did this thing called life. You're years ahead of them. You are just, you went to school, college. Those things don't matter. You've been in the work system for how long? None of that matters to them. At this age, at this point, their friends are everything. And it's an important part of their development. And I say it's an important part of their development because I believe that even before the pandemic, every child needs to have a healthy dose of social interaction with other kids their age. Whether they're children, teens, young adults, it's so important for them to have interactions with other people their age, just like you as adults. It's important for you to have interactions with other adults. If you are a parent and let's say you work from home and the kids are home, and so the only people you see all day long are your kids, it's so important for you to call up some adult friends and have time with them, have connections with them, people who are on your level, people who are in the same frame of mind as you, people who might be in the same state of mind as you, people who might understand more of what you're going through. It's so important for us to have social connections with peers, with our peers. The same thing for teens. And the reason I'm starting with adolescents is because it is so easy for us to ignore what they're feeling. It's so easy for us to just put it on the back burner. It's so easy for us to turn them down when they're trying to either tell us how they're feeling or show us, because many of them won't use their words, but their behaviors, the things that they're doing, are going to show you what they're going through. And it's so easy for us to kind of turn them away because we're so busy. We're working, trying to handle bills, trying to get our own lives together, and we're doing all of this for them. And so when they come in and it feels like they're just complaining about these things that seem so small to you as an adult, friends are saying this, and your first instinct is to get upset and be like, who cares what your friends say? Why do you even care what your friends say? Not realizing that this is, they're probably at this age, that's their most important connection, not you. I'm sorry. It'll come back to you, But right now, it's not you. You're not their most important connection. Their friends, they really do rely on those connections. And so when they're having issues with their social circles, those things completely throw them off and will make them, it's going to hurt their everyday, their routine, their mental health, their state of mind, everything like that. So it's important. It's important for their development that they have healthy connections with their peers. That's why when you're being bullied in grade school, it's not something that you easily forget. It is something that will probably stay with you for years to come. You will always remember that one girl who did that one thing to you. It doesn't matter if it was in 3rd grade and you are 40 years old now. That's how important, at that age, that's how important those connections are, because when something happens, it's not easily forgotten. So imagine if you as an adult are still dealing with things that happened in high school, you're still dealing with things that happened in middle school. Imagine how they're feeling being in that situation right now. It's to us, it doesn't seem so important until we really step back and think about our own interactions and the things that happened to us when we were their age. And because of COVID, a lot of these social connections have been strained by the changes to the in-person school and then the increase in just the virtual school, time at home, time alone at home. Especially if you're an only child. Imagine you are an only child and every single day you were going to this building and you had friends. The school wasn't the only thing that shut down. The church shut down. Our youth groups couldn't meet anymore. College ministry couldn't meet anymore. And it's like you basically lose out on your friends at every turn, at every corner. Families couldn't come together. Even if you have a big family and let's say you're really close to your cousins, that was even an issue. People couldn't go to each other's house and you couldn't find, and so those connections were also severed during the time that we were all going through COVID. And we know that isolation, social isolation and loneliness is linked with a poorer mental health. If you are socially isolated and you already your mental health is already on the line, it's not going to help, right? The isolation, the loneliness is not going to boost your mental health. In fact, it's going to drag it down the other way. And then we get the higher rates of depression, the higher rates of anxiety in adolescents and, like I said, and in adults. And some of you who are watching today, you saw the changes happening even in yourself. The fact that we were being stuck home, we didn't want to be stuck home, but we had to be. There is this terrible disease out there. You're worried about that. At the same time, you're not able to connect to your supports, to the people that you can. And so it really caused a lot of, not just our teens, but a lot of our adults to go through this decline in their mental health. So we saw a boost, an increase in depression and in anxiety in teens and in adolescents in this past year. You might be asking, what is that? What does that even look like? What does depression even look like? What does anxiety look like in a teen and an adolescent? Because the thing about it is that your kids can be going through things that you don't even realize. You don't even know what's going on with them because you don't know the signs and the symptoms of some of the diseases, some of the illnesses that are going on out there. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. What does that even look like in a teen or in an adolescent? And again, there are some parallels to even adult mental health depression. And so I want you to really look or think about what I'm saying and what it looks like in your child, even kind of what it looks like in you, because it's easier it's easier to be able to spot and diagnose depression and anxiety in an adult than it is in an adolescent. The signs and the symptoms are very similar, but the people are not, right? If you think about teens, what is their biggest thing at this age? The biggest thing that parents are dealing with a teenager? Mood swings. So 1 minute they're happy, 1 minute they're sad, 1 minute they're emotional, 1 minute they're mad. I mean, you have no idea what's going on with them. So it's so much harder at that age to say, okay, is this a mental health issue, or is this just them being a regular teen? Because those things are regular teen things. Mood swings, that's regular for almost any teen. To wake up happy and then all of a sudden be upset, to ask you for one thing, you say no, and all of a sudden the world is crumbling around them. Those things are so normal. So I'm going to go through the signs and the changes, but it is something that you have to really look into your child and say, have these changes happened in a period of over 2 weeks? And is it something that is different? Is it a change? Is this not normal from their regular behavior, from who my child usually is? And the same thing for you, the same thing for adults. The difference is, are these changes in their behaviors, or is this just who they are? Some people, just like some teens, are just really quiet. They've always been quiet. They've always kind of been loners. They already don't have a lot of friends. And so, I mean, you have to be able to weigh that against some of the signs and the symptoms that I'm talking about. All right, so let's go. Let's start with depression. And it's not gonna change too much between depression and anxiety. So for the signs and symptoms of depression and anxiety, let's first look at emotional changes. So the emotional changes that you are going to see happening are feelings of sadness. So feelings of sadness, maybe they just get really, really quiet all of a sudden, or they just isolate themselves all of a sudden. Like they just want to be alone, be by themselves. Crying spells, like all of a sudden they just start crying, and you don't know what happened, literally nothing happened in the room, and they just all of a sudden get really, really sad. That could be one of the signs. Feelings of frustration, anger, even over the smallest little things. Now remember what I said. We are talking about teens here. So this could be regular behavior, or this could be a sign of something worse. How do you tell the difference? You have to know your child. How do you know your child? You have to talk to your child. You're not going to know who your child is if you don't spend time with them, if you don't talk to them, if you don't figure out what's going on with them. When you're doing that, you know who your child is. And so when something changes, you'll know something has changed. All right? So feelings of frustration, of anger over small little things, feelings of hopelessness or empty, like, man, it's never going to change. It's always going to be like this. Like, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to get to that. The whole world sucks. Everything's going down. Like, those feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, worthlessness. Just like, I can never do anything right. Self-worth. Just them feeling like they can never do anything right. Even if I try, it never happens. Like, I make everything worse. Statements like that are statements of hopelessness and worthlessness. Then you have irritability and annoyed mood. So just them, you could just be walking by and say hi to them, and they're like, what? I didn't even do anything. Like, they're already irritated. They're already annoyed. That might be time to stop and to ask them some more questions. Like, why are you so aggravated right now? Like, nothing even happened. Ask them questions. The most ideal situation for this is if you are a parent who is used to talking to your child, right? Because if you're used to talking to your child, then when something like this happens, and I always tell people, ask more questions. You see something that seems out of place, ask more questions. But the thing about it is, if you're not a parent who is usually talking to your kids, they're going to be like, okay, it's going to be very hard for them to open up to you, for them to talk to you, because you've never talked to them before. It's not too late. It is not too late. If you're out there, if you're listening, it is not too late. I don't care how old your child is. It is not too late to start talking to them and finding out, hey, what's going on? How are you feeling? Get them into a routine, or just get them comfortable with you coming up and asking them more questions. So let's keep going. A loss of interest or pleasure in usual activities. So let's say even if they're quarantined at home, but there are certain things that they really like to do at home, like maybe video games or watching TikTok or watching movies, and then all of a sudden you see them not doing any of that. Like, they're not engaging at all. So now would be the time to ask more questions, because you want to understand. I mean, these things are things that they used to enjoy. Why are they not enjoying them? The loss of interest in or conflict with family and friends. This is like the most important one. When you have an adolescent or a teen who all of a sudden is not getting along with their peer group, they're not talking to their own friends anymore, they're just isolating themselves. This is huge, because remember, we just talked about how important social connection is to them, how important their peers are to them. When they turn away from that, then you know something is going on. And so we say, ask more questions. All right, so low self-esteem, fixation on past failures, exaggeration on self-blame or self-criticism, extreme sensitivity to rejection or failure. So if they're doing something and you tell them, no, don't do it like that, and all of a sudden they get so upset, they're like, forget it, I'm not doing it anymore. Like, I can't even do it right. I never do it right. Like, it's time to ask more questions. All right? Trouble thinking, concentrating, making decisions, remembering things, ongoing sense that life and the future are grim and bleak, frequent thoughts of death, dying, or suicide. This is probably the hardest one for parents to get to, because they are so afraid to ask questions. And the questions that you would be asking to get the answers to whether they're thinking about death, dying, or suicide is to ask them, are you thinking about death, dying, or suicide? Have you ever thought of killing yourself? And parents, adults, anybody, even teens themselves, talking to other teens, they find this question so uncomfortable. And it's, I do a training called Mental Health First Aid, and it's actually one of the activities that I do in the training is we make everybody ask the question out loud, say it several times, because it is something that you just have to get yourself used to. All right, you just have to make yourself comfortable with it. We live in a time and in a society where a lot of people are thinking of suicide and you don't even know it. And the thing about it is that it's not that you don't know it. It's just that nobody ever wants to ask because of all of these. I mean, you ask people, why didn't you ask, or why didn't you say something? They're like, I don't know. I didn't want to be rude, and I didn't want to. I mean, I don't know how asking somebody if they're thinking about killing themselves became something rude. If I see that you're isolating, I see that you're by yourself, you have not been engaging, you are not doing the things you used to do. I'm noticing all of these things, like you're not concentrating. All of a sudden you're not doing well in school the way that you were. You're not able to keep things up. You're really irritable. why is it rude for me to ask you, hey, what's going on? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Because I've noticed some things. I just want to be sure. And people, you hear it all the time on the news. They say that people always say, I knew something was up with them, I just didn't know what. And that's usually because nobody wants to ask more questions. But it's so important for us to be able to stand up and to boldly ask more questions. You could save somebody's life. You could be saving the life of your child, of someone else's child. You could be saving the life of a friend, of a peer, a coworker. It's not rude to ask someone if they're thinking about killing themselves, especially if you notice some of these other signs and symptoms going on. It's not rude. It's not rude, number one. You're not going to put the thought in their head. That's another thing that people say, well, I didn't want to ask because I didn't want them to, I didn't want to give them the idea. People on YouTube, people on Facebook, you cannot give somebody the idea to kill themselves. If they were already thinking about it, then they were already thinking about it. And if they were not thinking about it, you saying it is not going to make them say, you know what? I didn't even think about that. That's a great idea. Maybe I should do it. It doesn't happen like that. All right? I've heard those misconceptions. I've heard those myths. It's not true. In fact, you opening up and asking them might be exactly what they need to be able to talk to you about something that's going on. And the reason we even go over it in my training is because we try to give people confidence. When you're asking somebody a question like this, you want to be confident in it. You don't want to be all scared and like, oh, are you thinking about like, are you, whatever? No, it's not that. You want to show the person that I am here for you. I want to know the truth. I want you to tell me the truth. I want to help you if you do tell me the truth. Like, you want to appear confident. I don't care what's going on the inside of you, but on the outside, I want you to appear confident. I want you to appear bold. And if you have to ask someone, hey, are you thinking about killing yourself? Because you have not been talking to any of your friends. You have not been engaging. You have been isolating yourself. You've been in the room. You've been sleeping for 10 hours during the day and then sleeping again at night. Like, confront them with these things and let them be the ones to tell you, oh my God, no, that's not it at all. Let them tell you that. And if that's what it is, then great. At least you know you did what you had to do. You asked the questions that you needed to ask. So I'm going to ask all of you guys that are watching right now, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, I want you to say the question out loud. Okay, I mean, you don't need to scream it if you're in Walmart or, hey, I don't know, maybe if you do scream it, somebody will answer. But I want you to say it out loud. I want you to confidently say, are you thinking of killing yourself? I want you to be direct. I want you to be bold. I want you to say the words out loud, because do you know how many of us have never said that to someone? Like, it's just so, I don't know if we're just thinking that suicidal people are going to walk up to us and say, hey, I'm thinking about killing myself. No. So right now, I want you to take 3 seconds, and I want you to just say it. Say it, people. Yeah, come on. Marcy, I don't hear you. Okay, say it. Are you thinking of killing yourself? I want you to be able to be confident with this question, whether you have to ask your spouse, whether you have to ask your children. I don't care if it's somebody in your family or even a stranger, but that I would rather them tell you, oh my goodness, no, that's not it. You're so wrong. I would rather you be wrong than you be right and never ask the question. All right? So we've all said it. Did we all say it? If we all said it, can I get a thumbs up in the comments? If you said it, let me get either give me some hearts or give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you just said it out loud and you're practicing if you ever need to say it again or if you ever need to use it. Everybody said it, right? Okay. So now let's talk about some behavioral changes that happen when your teen or your adolescent might be experiencing depression or anxiety. We have tiredness and loss of energy. Remember, I just said, maybe you've noticed that they are sleeping. Again, you have to know your teen, right? It doesn't have to be your child, but maybe your niece, maybe a friend. Most teenagers I know come back from school and the first thing they do is go to sleep. Like, they go to sleep like they just came back from a 12-hour shift, okay? They're so tired, they're so exhausted. So you have to know that. You have to know, well, this particular child, this is their pattern, right? This is their routine. They come home and they go to sleep. I'm talking about kids who all of a sudden teachers are calling you and saying, hey, they're not able to stay up in the morning. They're late for school because they're not getting up. When they come back from school, they're not just taking a quick nap and then getting up and doing things. They're sleeping from the time that they came home from school to the next morning. Like you're not seeing them at all. It's just so much sleep. And then on the flip side, we have the ones who never sleep, which is also a sign. So a child who's having insomnia, so they're always up, always awake, like something is on their mind that they can't quite settle down, right? That's where the anxiety happens. If you've ever suffered with anxiety, then you know how difficult it is to sleep. I have suffered with anxiety before, and it's one of the things I hated the most because I'm not a non-sleeper. Soon as I get into my bed, I'm able to sleep. But since I've been pregnant, for some reason at night, my mind is just going, and I can't settle myself down. Like you feel like everything is working, everything is like you can't even sit still. You got to get up and move and kind of, anxiety is no joke. So it's either they're sleeping way too much or they're not sleeping at all, right? Any one of the extremes is not good. Changes in appetite, decreased appetite and weight loss, or an increased appetite and weight loss, because as African Americans, as Haitians, we use food as an emotional crutch. We have learned from the time that we were young that to use food for every emotion that might be going on with us. If you're happy, we eat. If you're sad, we eat. Come on, just look at parties. You have a birthday party, you can't have a birthday party with just finger foods. Not Haitians, not Black Americans, no. You're having a birthday party, it's gotta be like what we call the party foods, right? So you eat when you're happy. Look at funerals. When you're sad, we still have this huge party where we give people all of this food. It's like we're eating all of our emotions. And we've learned this from the time that we were young, and then we just keep doing it. And then when we're older, we still have these things in mind. We still use food as an emotional crutch. So you might find that when you're anxious, you can't figure out what to do. What do? You go to the refrigerator, find something to eat. You're sad, you want sweets. You're happy, you want sweets. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on. Food is there to kind of help console you. This is a horrible, horrible coping mechanism that leads to so many other issues. But for the sake of time, I'm not even going to get into that. Changes in appetite is one of the signs of depression or anxiety or anxiety. The use of drugs and alcohol, agitation or restlessness, so pacing, hand wringing, like you can never sit still. You're always like Oh, something's always got to be moving. The inability to just be calm. Slowed thinking, speaking, or body movements. Like for you, everything else is going so fast and you're just moving. You feel like you're in slow-mo, right? These are behavioral changes that happen with you or with somebody that you know that might be experiencing depression or anxiety. The frequent complaints of unexplained body aches, headaches, headaches. We have talked so much about how mental illness is linked to physical illness. A lot of times, stress will cause you to have actual physical pain and physical issues that are going on the inside of you. And so if you have a child that's constantly going to the nurse at the school because, oh, my stomach hurts, but not, the nurse checked them out and everything seems fine, but for some reason they're still like, oh, my stomach hurts, or I have this headache, it won't go away. There's something else going on, so you might need to ask more questions. So, all right, so isolation, social isolation, poor performance in school, grades going down, frequent absences, kids skipping school frequently and you not even realizing it, less attention to personal hygiene. All of a sudden, they don't want to do anything. They're not taking baths. I mean, and this is, just like I said, you have to know who your child is, because your child might be that child who they never like to take a bath. And so this is not a change for them. But then you have other kids who got into a really good routine, and all of a sudden, you're noticing that they're going in the bathroom, they're turning on the water, but they walk out dry. And this is not what they were doing before. So you have to know, all right, what's going on, and so we have to ask more questions. You get the angry outburst, the disruptive, the risky behavior, the acting out, self-harm, cutting, burning, excessive piercing or tattooing. People don't realize excessive piercing and tattooing is also a form of self-harm. Some people do it just for the pain. And so these things, it's important for you to look at too. Look at your child. Take a look at them when they're in front of you, when they're walking by you. Look at, what's going on with them, their skin, their body. Does everything look normal? Does everything look the same? And remember that if they are cutting, if they are burning, if they're scraping. I had a child who was constantly punching walls. His knuckles were all bruised up all the time, because every time he would get anxious or he would get angry, it was just punch. He wouldn't take it out on people, but he would take it out on himself and just continue to punch the wall. I had a girl who was using the back of erasers to burn herself. And so she was just constantly rubbing in those things and burning her skin off. And so look at them, find out what's going on, ask them questions. If it's the summertime, and most of us live in Florida, it's summertime and they're wearing long sleeves. This is normal for some of them, but make them take it off. Put on a short sleeve shirt. Like, what you trying to hide? Let me see what's going on. You're the parent here, so make sure you ask more questions. And of course, if you see them, we have some kids who like to journal. And this one is a little bit difficult, because if they're journaling, you definitely want to respect their privacy, but at the same time, it's important for you to know what's going on with them. So if you have a kid who's journaling, ask them to share some things with you. Ask them, be open enough to let you see what's going on, not because you are trying to be nosy, but because you want to know them better. And make sure, they're not having all of these, letters of death, suicide plans, suicide attempts. Everything that they do, everything that they write is about, death and dying. So we want to get in there. And so what are some steps that you as a parent can take to help your child who has been isolated, who has been cooped up, or who is going through a change? any big change in their life and you want to help them to be able to get through it, number one thing is it's important for you to validate their feelings. I find that this is probably the hardest thing for parents to do, is for them to listen to their kids and for them to agree that you're right. What you're going through is really, really tough. I understand. Validate their feelings does not mean, Christians, all my God-fearing people, validating feelings is not putting a positive spin on everything. Sometimes people don't want to hear your positive spin. They don't always want, right now, I'm not looking for your encouragement. I just want to tell you how I feel. And so with teens and adolescents, it's important for you to not take everything that they're feeling and try to turn it around and make it something good and tell them this is what God's going to do with it. There's a time for that. There's going to be a time for that. There's going to be a time when they need to be encouraged, when they need to be picked up. But there is also a time for you to just listen and say, man, you're right. That sucks. That's really, I'm so sorry that you're going through that, like at school. I know you're stressed out. I know you have so much work to do. That's hard. Just them knowing that you are on their side for even just a millisecond, right? Without saying, but it's good. It's going to make you a stronger person, and you're going to know how to do things when you grow up. Okay, yeah. I promise you, if there are children who go to church, they can probably spit out those things on their own. If they've ever heard you say something positive, then they can probably get a lot of these positive things on their own. Sometimes they just need you to understand, or to say you understand how they're feeling. So it's important to continue to recognize and validate them back verbally. Let them know that you see how challenging things are for them. You see how difficult it's been. You notice how stressed out they are. Is there something that I can do? Can I help you with anything? Is there something that I can do? And maybe they'll tell you, I don't know. I just need to be encouraged. And then all of my good Christians, y'all can throw out all the Bible verses that you want and encourage them. But first, just give them some validation. Just help them to know that they're not crazy, that what they're going through is hard. It is difficult. All right? And the second thing is, as much as possible, try to get them into a regular schedule, especially if you have kids who are not in school yet. I know a majority of us have gone back to brick and mortar, so your kids have gone back to school, but if you're still not, and even those that have gone back to school, just because they've gone back to school, we're still in a pandemic. There are still things that they're not able to do. People had to cancel vacations. You're not able to see family. A lot of things happen. Try to get them on some type of regular schedule. I'm talking about teens too. Children are not the only ones who need schedules. Adolescents, teens need schedules. It's important for them to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and throughout the day. I have had so many parents in front of me say, well, why they got to know? Like, wherever I take you is where I'm taking you. And it's like, okay, well, then you keep doing that, and then you keep getting these kids who are so off balance. Like, you take them somewhere, and all of a sudden they're mad. I don't want to go in. Can I just sit in the car? Can I do, whatever? And it's like, now you're fighting with them when it could have just been, hey, this is what's going to happen today. This is how it's going to happen. Children need routine. Teens, adolescents, they need routine. They need to be a part of the schedule making. They need to be creating their own schedules. They need to know what's going to happen, right? It's just, if not, that's how we get these grumpy teens, or that's how we get these salty kids. You're trying to drag them to this place that I didn't know we were going here. I have homework to do. I don't want to go, and all of this stuff. Just avoid all of that. Yes, you're the parent. We all know you pay the bills. We know all of these things. But is that the type of parent you want to be? You have to choose. You either want to have a good relationship with your child, with them. I mean, just because you're telling them what's going on doesn't mean all of a sudden they're in charge. And no, it's okay for you to share some of that with them, of what's going on. All right. And that's it. And because of COVID, a lot of these things have changed. A lot of these things have been put on the back burner. And we're still trying to figure out how to get back to normal life. And so I want to encourage you to talk to your teens today. Talk to them even about how COVID has affected them. Like, I don't know when's the last time you sat down with your child and asked them, like, how are you doing? Like, a whole pandemic happened, guys. Kids are not dumb. They saw people dying. They saw people losing their jobs. They saw you lose your job. They saw you worrying about how bills are going to get paid. They saw all of these things. And we always talk about trauma not being a direct hit. Trauma can be widespread. Just because you lost your job doesn't mean that you're the only one traumatized. Everybody in your household is traumatized. Talk to them about, hey, it's been a year since COVID. How are you feeling now? Like, do you feel like we're getting back to things? Do you feel like we're ever going to get back to things? How do you feel about, this whole vaccine, everything coming out? Talk to your kids. Talk to them. It's the only way that you can get yourself into a relationship with them, so that when you need to ask some deeper questions, you're not afraid, because you've already established that type of relationship with them. So I pray that you enjoyed our Bible study tonight on teens, mental health, and COVID. I know we talked a lot more about the teens' mental health than actual COVID, but the thing about it is that COVID is what kind of increased. The mental health part never changed, right? The mental health, the signs, the symptoms, those things didn't change with COVID. They just were increased with COVID. And so I hope you take the time out to talk to those teens, those adolescents that are around you. Doesn't have to be your children, anybody's children. Just ask them more questions. Ask them what's going on. Maybe you're going to use some of this for some adults in your life. Whatever it is that you're going to do, I pray that the grace of God is with you as you're doing it. All right, that brings us to offering time. Don't forget to give your offering. Let me see if anybody did you guys have any comments? No. Come on, people. You guys know I like when you talk back to me. It's offering time. It's offering time. Don't leave Bible study without sending your offering. If you're Zelling us, don't forget to put in the memo that it is for Bible study offering, so that we can know the difference. Don't forget, we still have our text to give number at the bottom, and of course our website that you can log on to and go through the donations. All three of these are super quick, so don't hesitate to jump on any one of them, and so that you can be a part of what we're doing. I just want to thank every single one of you for watching tonight. I cannot wait to see you guys again. Please let somebody else know. We have such a great Bible study going, and I hope that more people are able to hear what is going on. You never know when you'll need it, right? So you might not need it today. It doesn't mean that you won't need it tomorrow, next year, next month. And so I just thank all of you who have been with us all of this time. I can't wait till one day we're able to actually come back together, right? So this is new. Me doing Bible study online is new. It's usually, and it's still a little weird, because even when you guys talk, I like when people talk back and we can have discussion, but that doesn't happen as well online. So we're all still trying to get used to this new way of life with the pandemic, and who knows, maybe someday we'll be able to get back together and see each other face to face. All right, so I'm going to close. Thank you again for joining us tonight. I pray that the Lord would be with you. I just want to remind you guys, especially those of you who are members of Salem Community Church, that tonight we do have our Wednesday night prayer on the Creole prayer line that they will be using to dedicate for Sister Carlene to continue to pray for her. I did speak to her daughter earlier this afternoon, and so she said that she is still a long ways from recovery. So she still needs a lot of prayer. They are going to be taking her off the machines tomorrow to see how she responds. And so this is when we really need to pray, because we want her body to respond positively. We want her to start breathing on her own, and it's not happening yet. We want her to be able to start doing a lot of things on her own that she's not doing yet. So we're just going to keep praying, and we believe that God is able. And so if you are able to get on the prayer line tonight at 9 o'clock, the Creole prayer line, and join us as we pray for Sister Carlene. I pray that you all have a wonderful evening. Be blessed, and I will see you guys Sunday morning, either at the 8 o'clock service or at the 11 o'clock service. Bye. Have a wonderful week.